I just finished watching Paper Planes Part 1, and alright, so I took some notes because I didn't want to forget any of it. First on the agenda, Anya doing coke. Interesting, because Anya's always like the good girl, and I don't know, I think it's interesting though, I kind of like that plot twist. And I think it's kind of funny how they really kind of like glamorize the club and coke scene. I don't know, I remember when Drew did some kind of crazy whatever, shrooms or whatever he did. When he first started dating Bianca, he did some shrooms and it was like, they made it like really seem like you're gonna look really dumb if you do shrooms. But then like Anya doing coke and she was like having a good time at the club, looking all good, and it was like, didn't really seem that bad. I think that's kind of interesting that they're doing that. And I also think it's funny that Owen is a club guy, like, ooh, 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 party boy. Which brings up my second point that I wrote down here on my page of watercolor practices. This has happened in the past too. Like, there'll be a bad guy character. Not a bad guy, a bad boy character. And he's like a bad boy through most of it. And then they take him and pair him with someone that's a main character, and he suddenly is a main character, and then he's a good guy. And it's like, oh, I guess he's actually sweet after all. It happened with Jay Hogarth was the bad boy, and then he got paired with Manny, and he was still kind of bad, but then he was good at the end. He was like, oh, he's so sweet. It happened with Backwoods Bandari's boyfriend, Johnny, and he was like a greasy thug, and he was even there when his friend stabbed JT and killed him. And then he was with Allie, and he was like hugging the puppies, and then Drew was like super anti-gay, homophobe, and he was like making fun of Riley and stuff all the time. Now he's like normal. Like Owen is like, oh, he cares after all, he doesn't do coke. And even Bianca was like a thug, and now she's all like, oh, I guess she's okay. And then I wrote down bed bugs, lol, because I think it's really funny that they have bed bugs at their fancy loft, Fiona and Charlie. And then I said, Connor underwear mega lol, get owned Allie LOL. I laughed my butt off. Allie walks in and she's like, what the? And then he like runs out and knocks her into the trash can, and she's just like, and I laughed. I think it's weird that Anya is like all up in the drug scene now, and it's kind of a little bit reminiscent of when Paige was applying for colleges, and she did a bunch of pot with Alex, her whatever lesbian fling, right before she did the interview. And so she like gets really high and goes to her interview and totally botches it. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen with Anya. She's going to like do a bunch of coke. She thinks it makes her feel good and look better. And she's like going to go and totally mess up her interview and be like crazy. And then Owen will be like, I told you so, now stop hanging out with Holly J. And she'll be like, okay, and then Holly J will die of her disease. That's my prediction for the rest of the season for those characters. So that's probably terrible, but it's going to happen, and we'll see. So, okay, Paper Planes Part 1, done. On to Paper Planes Part 2. So I'll be right back with my interpretation, if you will, and I'll see you then. So, wish me luck. Alright, so I just finished Paper Planes Part 2, and I took some more notes. OMG sand necklace. That happened at the beginning of the episode where she dumped all the sand out of her necklace that her mom gave her, Anya, and she put her cocaine in there, and I was like, oh no, that was just like a big metaphor for like her dumping everything that was meaningful to her down the drain. It was really sad, because like I can't imagine doing that to something that my mom gave me. And it's just like being disrespectful to your mother, and like especially her mom had cancer and she was like really rude to her at the end of the episode. Like, come on, your mom could have died. Thinking about my parents dying is like really upsetting to me. Okay, and then one thing I noticed, this is just totally random, but what I noticed is that when in the previous episode, Paper Planes Part 1, Anya was like filling out her application for college, and when she closed her laptop and was leaving, it had a sticker over the apple symbol, and it was replaced with a pear symbol like they have on Nickelodeon shows such as iCarly. But then later, Connor had the iPad, and it had the apple symbol on it, so it's kind of conflicting. OMG. Anya taking Coke at her interview. Bad decision. Didn't I call that just like 5 minutes ago though? I totally knew that was gonna happen. And she was like, took a bunch of Coke and like went out and partied and was disrespectful to her mother. And I was like, sad day. One thing I thought was interesting though, they never show her actually like, they just show her like going down to do it. And then she like dicks off screen. I think that's kind of interesting. Kids are impressionable. And I might start doing Coke if I saw on TV how to properly do it. Just kidding. Oh, Connor. So he was stealing underwear, which was kind of funny at first, but now it's kind of sad because he got suspended, and he was like, and I was like, oh, for sad. So Fiona and Charlie are kind of like over for right now. I didn't really like them being together. I don't mind them being lesbians, but it's just like, Charlie was just kind of annoying. You know? She's just kind of like, oh, I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. And I mean, again, with the reminiscence of Paige and Alex, Alex was like the bad girl that like grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, and Paige was like the rich girl that's like snotty and stuff, you know, prude. I think it's interesting that Fiona took initiative and was able to recognize that she had a problem because, yeah, that's good. And that is what happened in Paper Planes 2. That is my take on it. And so, next I have to watch Should Have Said No, Part 1. I'm sorry I look so gross, but you're going to have to deal with it because, yeah, didn't shower. On to Should Have Said No, Part 1. Be right back.